on Times Radio.
Now, a little bit earlier, I spoke to John Penrose, the Conservative MP, former anti-corruption advisor. This is what he told me, went through his mind when he saw his old boss, David Cameron, walking into Downing Street.
It's rare that a reshuffle produces a genuine rabbit-out-of-the-hat moment, but actually I think David Cameron walking up the Downing Street steps probably counts as one. I mean, John, you've probably seen more of these than I have, but I think everyone was pretty gobsmacked. But also, I think it's an attempt by Rishi to inject some pace and to sort of take forward the agenda that he started to lay out a bit at the party conference. And if the new team allows him to sort of do that faster and with more energy, then good on him.
Yeah, I mean, you're saying that invites this next question, John. If it's about picking up the theme of the party conference, the theme at the party conference was a fresh start and throwing off all the baggage of past administrations and past leaders, including David Cameron.
Well, yes, but don't forget, I mean, I'm sure many of your listeners may remember, if they subscribe to a rival publication, The Economist, they may remember an Economist front cover of David Cameron with a Union Jack Mohican haircut as a true radical. And I think that it'll be very interesting to see. But he is David Cameron is no one's stick in the mud. He may be a former prime minister, but he is far from a somebody who's as steady as she goes merchant.
Well, I mean, it sounds like you've got very high hopes of the return of David Cameron. When you say that, you want a bit of Cameron-style radicalism, some fresh thinking, something we haven't got in the mix at the moment. What do you have in mind?
I was really just responding to your point about, is this going to be more of the same? And I think it's really clear that it isn't going to be more of the same. So, I mean, Rishi was quite right to say that what people are feeling at the moment is we've had a war in Ukraine which has rammed up everyone's energy bills. So everybody's hurting. Plus, we're still sort of suffering from the hangovers from the pandemic in terms of disrupting global supply chains and inflation and all that stuff. And people want to know that the government is on their side. They want to know that they aren't going to be cowed by big business, by vested interests or anything like that. And actually what they want to know is that there's somebody who is there going to go toe-to-toe on the side of the man and the woman in the street. And it just feels to me like that was the sort of the fundamental underlying instinct that Rishi was starting to tap into. And I thought it was exactly the right one. We need to be on the side of consumers. We need to be on the side of hard-working energy bill payers. And that's the right place for the Conservative Party to be. And at the moment, I'm not through anybody's particular fault, but because of those things like that, the war and the and the pandemic, it feels as though the system isn't working for too many people at the moment, and it needs to. So that's the thing which I think I'm driving at. And if David Cameron can help do that, I think that'll be all to the help. I mean, it's not just David Cameron. There's been other things in the reshuffle too, as I'm sure you're going to come on to. Yeah. But that I think is the thing which I am personally hoping for, and I'm reasonably hopeful about.
All you said suggests that David Cameron's going to do something to enhance the popularity of the government. I've just seen a snap poll. I know snap poll's just a snap poll, but that said that 38% of those polled thought bringing Cameron back was a bad idea. 24% of people liked it. That's an evidence contrary to the opinion you just.
And so I think that we are firmly now. Here we are in just coming to well into year 4 of a 5-year parliament, where any party has to show not tell. It's all very well for you and I to opine about what this might mean, but actually the proof of the pudding is going to be in, does this new team, in 6 weeks, 3 months, 6 months' time, do people look back and go, yeah, okay, we saw a change of gear, we saw a change of approach, we can see that the fine words which Rishi came out with in his party conference speech have actually resulted in action. And you and me and old Uncle Tom Cobley and all, it could be the Pope standing up and saying, here's a promise. We've actually got to see the reality. And if we do, then I think, as you say, snap polls are only snap polls, but I think we'll see people starting to respond. And if the actions don't follow, then they won't.
Okay, look, you used to be the anti-corruption champion, and I don't suggest there's any suggestion of corruption here, but David Cameron worked as a private citizen to promote China's investment and involvement. You know this in Sri Lanka, a big development project there. It's been accused of being far too close to China, which is an adversarial power. Is that going to be, a weight round his neck as he assumes the mantle of foreign secretary?
I don't think so, for several reasons. The first one is that he will be required to sign up to all sorts of things. Now he's back in government and bound by the ministerial code, so he will have to shed any previous involvements that he may have had. But also, I think that I haven't asked David about this recently at all, but he's a huge realist, and he will understand that the position of China in the world today is very different than it was when he was in number 10. I mean, we are now, 7 years on, nearly 8, from when he was Prime Minister, and the world has changed, the world's moved on, and so has China's relationship with us,
but
and our
John,
relationship with China.
John, it's more adversarial now. And recently there was David Cameron banging the drum for Chinese investment. That's the potential conflict.
Yes, but absolutely. But the point about it is that when you become a minister, you have to sign up to the ministerial code, and you have to. Previous prime ministers, for example, and many senior ministers have had to put any personal business involvements into blind trusts to make sure that there's no conflicts of interest. David Cameron will have to do whatever is necessary along those lines in order to make sure that he can operate with a clean pair of hands. And I'm sure he will have. He wouldn't have accepted the job. He's experienced enough to know that that's what's required. He would not have accepted the job if he wasn't willing and understood the implications of that. And if he wasn't willing to do it, he wouldn't have been able to take on the job in the first place because the ministerial code wouldn't have allowed him to.
That's John Penrose, the Conservative MP, former minister and former anti-corruption advisor, speaking to me just ahead of the show.